Hi, I think I'm live on both. So I've got Facebook and Instagram. If you can, just let me know that you're here. Sorry, my eyes are a bit red tonight too. I've got some hay fever that's going nuts, so it's a bit interesting. I'll give everybody a minute just to pop on, so say hi if you can. Tonight we're going to learn how to sew a gathering stitch with a basting stitch. So on Wednesday we did it with our overlocker. So if you had an overlocker, you can go back and check out that video. So we did it with our overlocker, which was super cool. I've also created a highlights reel on my Instagram with all the Sew It Sunday stuff going on. So yeah, you'll be able to go back and see it out. So yes, we did that, and we had all our different sizes. But today we're going to learn how to sew a gather with just a normal basting stitch. So this is on your normal machine. I have a Benina. It is my aunt's old machine. I do have a newer Janome, which needs to go to the doctor and I haven't got around to it yet. So I'm just using my aunt's old Benina and it is amazing. So we might get started. I'm just going to angle the cameras down so you can see what I'm doing. I'll share a photo on my stories after about how I'm doing this. So what you're going to do, you're going to get your piece of fabric. I'm using a woven, but it doesn't matter if you're using a woven or a knit. And you're going to change your stitch length to the longest stitch length you can. So for me, that's a 4. For you, it might be a 5. On my Janome, it's a 5. But on my Benina, it's a 4. And I'm going to show you the difference between sewing with a 1 row basting stitch and a 2 row basting stitch for gathers, just to see the difference in control. So I'm just going to sew a single straight line. Then we're going to get quite a long tail of thread so that you have something to play with, and just snip it off. Now, as you can see, I'll show both, we've just got one long row of a basting stitch. Now to start gathering, you're going to get your bobbin side, so your bobbin thread, and just start to gently pull. And as you can see, it starts to gather. So you can control that however you like. You can make it, super duper gathered, or you can spread your gathers out a little bit. If you don't want it to come undone at the other end, you can tie it off. So depending on the type of thing you're doing, you might gather from both sides because it's a really long piece. But if it's a short piece, if I can get this open. Sorry about my eyes and voice. Hay fever is just not fun tonight. So yeah, you can tie this off, because if you didn't, what would happen is when you got to the other end of the gathers, it would just come out. The gathers wouldn't hold. So now I can push my gathers all the way to the end and they won't come out. They're stuck. So that's handy that way. So that's a single stitch gather. As you can see, still effective, but I want to show you the better control you have with a double stitched basting stitch. So I'll get my new piece and I'm going to sew 2. So I'll sew my first one. Again, I might just give myself a little bit more of a tail. So I've got a tail. Now I'm going to sew a second basting row, like 5 mil away from the other one. I generally like to line it up with the edge of my foot, just so I've got something. I sort of use this as a guide and I go along there. So I'm going to do my second one. Sorry guys, I just need to blow my nose. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of my foot and do a second line of basting, following my first line as a guide. Again, give yourself a bit of a tail. So we now have 2 rows of basting stitches. Again, we're going to get our bobbin thread, so the under thread. Grab those 2. And we're going to gently pull on those as we hold. And as you can see, it starts together. Now this is the preferred way of gathering, particularly with wovens, is 2 lines, because you have a lot more control than a single line. So I don't know if you can see, but this is a lot more even than this. Particularly on the back, you don't get as neat, and to try and then pin that to your skirt piece can get quite difficult. So I would always recommend, as a beginner, and even myself, to do 2 lines of basting if you're going to gather this way. So I will often gather this way on a woven skirt because I think it's a much nicer gather than the overlocker gather. Just depends on how, lazy I'm being. But you can just get so much more control with a double stitch. You can even go a triple if you want to for a gather. And just, that shows you how to do a gathering stitch with a basting stitch. So as I said, last week Wednesday I did this one with the overlocker. Then you've got your single stitch basting, which I wouldn't really recommend, but you can do it if you're, short on time. But honestly, more often than not, you're going to curse yourself because it's just quite difficult to get right. But a 2 stitch basting stitch or 2 row basting stitch for gathers is just beautiful. So give that a try. If you have any troubles, always happy to chat with people in my DMs and on Facebook. So please feel free to drop comments or, ask anything. But yeah, gathering with 2 line basting stitch is always a really great way to do it. So hopefully you found something interesting in this. Again, any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll be back again next Sunday to show you how to gather with dental floss or just normal string. So there is another way you can do it. And that will probably be the end of our gathered series, and I'll go and do something else after that. So good luck, happy sewing, and I hope you learned something today. Thanks everybody.